Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliox, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, our guest is Sean Martin. He is the founder and sort of the front man for a band called The Quarantine. And Sean reached out to me after an episode that I did with Donna Meltzer over at the Brain Injury Services. And we had talked extensively, Donna and I, about PTS and the work that they do to help veterans. And he wanted to introduce me to his band, which is The Quarantine, which is amazing music, first of all. It's not for everybody. I'm just going to say that up front. But I think a lot of people will really understand it and take some very meaningful words away from it. I mean, I've been listening to it now for a week or more, and each song that I get into is just better and better. Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. That was a very, very great intro. Thank you. I'm so that you're liking the music.
Yeah.
It is something that kind of grows on you.
I'd like to start. Sean is prior service Army, airborne, deployed in Iraq. And I like to start my questions with a lot of our guests with, if you could join the Air Force, why did you join the Army?
I asked myself that after I got to Elmendorf Air Force Base and I saw that they were serving them steak and lobster every day. That made me really question my choices. But of course, that didn't come until the choice was already made.
Yeah. Wow. So when did you go in?
I joined up in December 28th of 2004.
Wow. Okay. You were 18?
Yeah.
Right out of high school. How come? Why did you join?
Well, of things. It was, wanting to get out of my town. It was wanting to open up to new opportunities and a new life. I knew that it would give me an entirely different perspective to then go after an entirely different life, maybe something I'd never known. I figured it was going to give me to places where I'd never been, so I'd end up with new things that I'd never known, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I joined the airborne infantry, and specifically I wanted to do the Special Forces contract, 18X contract that was the fast track into it from basic training. I wanted to do that because I wanted to know what it was like to have the power to kill and to use that for people's benefits. And I felt like, being in Special Forces, to me, it was about integrating into a community and teaching them how to become self-sufficient warriors and help them overthrow whatever oppressive force was around them, and then move out. To me, that's what I was looking forward to doing. And, killing is a part of that, but it's just one of the many tools that you learn, along with diplomacy and subterfuge and, at least a few different other options to integrate into a community and do sometimes black operations, sometimes very overt operations of community organizing.
And as an 18-year-old, how did you form this understanding of the Special Forces in the Army? What was it? Did you come from a military family, or how did you arrive at? I mean, this is not the way a lot of 18-year-olds think.
Yeah, it was. Well, the Special Forces contract was pitched to me. I went to the recruiters and saying, I want to join. I knew that I wanted to join Special Forces, but they gave me the opportunity because everyone had told me, it's like, dude, just don't even ask for it. Like what's the point of even asking? You're not going to get it, because they didn't know that there was a pipeline directly to Special Forces from basic training. So I wanted to do that because it to me it was the most high speed thing that I could do. It was the most consequential thing.
Mm-hmm.
It had weight. There are reasons, purposes, that and consequences. I wanted to be in the shit. I didn't just want to be a regular ass grunt and have nothing really, else besides that. Because to me, that seemed, that I knew that I could offer more.
So did you get there?
No, I didn't. I got into airborne infantry,
Mm-hmm.
and we were deployed to Iraq.
Mm.
And in the scope of my career, I had a sergeant major who was, I didn't know it, for most of the time, but I found out later that was eyeing me and watching me because I guess I reminded him of him. And later on in my deployment, when I guess I should preface this by saying, after well over 300 missions, combat missions outside the wire, after many, at least getting blown up, getting shot at, taking detainees, interrogated detainees, helped build my platoon built a patrol base out in the middle of basically nowhere.
Right.
And after all these experiences, I went back on leave and I had a required conversation that I thought was classified with an Army psychologist. And it turns out it was not classified. And they gave all of that information to my unit. They saw that as, because he's asking for help, then he must be damaged in some form or another. And all of my shit was packed up and ready to go. They didn't think that I was even coming back. My unit had written me off entirely and completely, and I was basically just left out in the wind. And I continued to do missions and operations with them, and it continued to become apparent to me that they were looking to take me out. And so there was a definite loss of trust in some of the people who I had to put my life in consistently. And some of them were NCOs, some of them weren't. But eventually what happened was they put me in the talk, and then the sergeant major came by the talk and was like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I told him basically what had happened. He's like, "Don't worry, I already know. You're coming with me. Don't worry." And so I started to work directly under the sergeant major. And under that, I was doing investigations. Under that, I was doing missions inside the FOB that were much more about passing messages between different entities. A lot of times it was the Special Forces compound inside our FOB. So I started to get into this extra level of subterfuge and intelligence gathering and human intelligence gathering and interrogation and noticing every single little thing that happens and every single thing that everybody says and everything in a room and marking it so that you can repeat it later. It's a very, very different thing than study battle drill and alpha and, understand the different ways in which you can flank, a target objective, because that's the basic infantry. Yeah. And this is like another level where it's like, I'm not even 21 years old and I'm already doing this high speed. There were times in which they sent me into brigade operations meetings. And I was the representative for the sergeant major at these meetings, and I'm a specialist. And I'm sitting around, hanging around with lieutenant colonels and all these officers, and it was a very, very weird situation. But eventually, through all these different experiences, there was a very, very consequential mission that they sent me on to essentially guard this guy at the front gate, at the north gate of FOB Kelsu. And when I got there, it became very apparent that this guy was not just a regular dude. He had 3 different cell phones. He had his own weapon, and he was a local national. So this dude turned out to be a triple agent, and we were just pulling guard on him to make sure that he didn't go and leave the area. But this dude could easily go anywhere that he really wanted to, and eventually I started asking him questions because at the time I started to pick up on Arabic words, and I started to pick up on some of the things that he was talking about, and started to realize that that this dude was talking it in a way that wasn't just passing regular information.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then he started to brag about fucking over everybody. And so I started to ask questions. And eventually I just used the process of just trying to get him to open up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he told me he's a triple agent. He's playing everybody. He's calling in a vehicle-borne IED on the North Gate. It's going to blow up everybody, including himself, because this entire war is fucked. He hates everybody. Every different, group that he was getting to get killed today had a role in killing his family over the last 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, so he said that they put me here specifically so that I could die too. And he said, go ahead, ask your sergeant major. He's my contact. So he gave me 5 seconds of lead to go away once my replacement came. And I couldn't tell anything to the replacement except for the orders, because that was the beginning thing. You can't say anything to the person relieving you. You have to give them the thing and don't tell them who the person is.
Mm-hmm.
So the information didn't transfer who he was between the guards.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, and I couldn't tell him anything about what was coming. And about 10 seconds later, a huge explosion blew me forward and destroyed the entire North Gate.
Mm-hmm.
A whole bunch of local nationals, a whole bunch of soldiers, a whole bunch of civilians. It was really bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I went right back to the sergeant major and I said, you fuck, what did you do?
So,
and from then we had a conversation with the colonel. I told them everything that happened, and they gave me 2 options. They said, we'll give you the golden ticket into special forces because you've already done above and beyond. You did a great job. You stayed alive when maybe you weren't supposed to. Or we'll give you the golden parachute out. We'll give you 50% disability and you can get out in 2 weeks.
mm-hmm.
We'll sign the orders right now. And I said, I don't trust you guys. Give me the golden parachute out. And so I left with 50% disability. 2 weeks later, I was out of Fort Richardson.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you in?
Just under 3 years.
3 years. Wow. Okay. And did you make a claim to the VA? I mean, did you?
The claim was already made. The claim was already made for me for 50%. It was already made for me and approved before I even got back to the United States.
Okay. Yeah.
It was an amazing situation. From then on, another 7 years down the road, I had to apply to get 100%. And it took me about 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even with well-documented combat situations, even with well-documented, different elements of my deployment that were obviously and overtly traumatic. It still took me 7 years.
You're at 100% now, though.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So how long were you out before you came to that moment where that made you decide that you needed to form this band and it needed to exist not just for music, but to have a message?
I would say it was 2010.
Okay.
I was going to music school and I knew that I'd already decided that I was going to do music for my life. I was just talking whether I wanted to be a session player or, like a side player, or whether I wanted to do my own music. And I came to the choices. Either I'm going to face everything that who I am, including the shit that happened to me, and put it into music, or what's the point of lying to everybody and trying to make an authentic music and not talk about it? Because at the time, like I wasn't dealing with PTSD at all. I wasn't even going to therapy. I wasn't doing anything to treat anything that was happening to me. My nervous system was going all over the place all the time. And it created a real, chaos, a very chaotic person. And it wasn't until I started to get a hold, that I started to go to therapy and start to mitigate what was going on with my nervous system, was I able to actually get knowledgeable enough to really speak on the deeper aspects of what was going on with me and relate it to people. That turned out to be the biggest thing that I learned from the inpatient clinic that I eventually went into, was how to get the language and translate the language of the feelings and emotions and experiences and all of that, and have the language to explain it to just regular people. And those pieces came together in 2010, 2012.
Right. And so that's when you decide that the music that you're going to write and perform, it's just not for entertainment. It's got a message, and it has a message that's rooted in your experiences over the last 10 years, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's trying to give it an expression, in general, but, seeing and living in some of the worst parts of Los Angeles is also a part of it. Seeing, having watching the political world, having commentary on that, the social world, how it seems like parts of our society are totally changing and not always for the better. How to explain and express that was all part of it, as well as a recognition of the values that got me through those very issues. To me, the music is the message is giving you the values and at least alluding to the tools that helped me overcome all of the obstacles that were in front of me, and continue to do music and stay true to myself.
And so music was basically therapy and an emotional process for you.
Yes. Sometimes it came as a result of therapy. Sometimes the music, to me, playing music, and interacting with the sound of music, just as an audio engineer, to me, the vibrations that it causes is really where the therapy is at. When everything is vibrating together, you have the kick put, perfectly with the guitars and the bass, and, when all of that is perfect, it creates a vibration, and that vibration changes your entire being. And depending on what kind of music you're listening to, it can change everything that you're thinking. For example, they do this directly with binaural beats. They do this directly with frequency therapy. And there's a lot of general applications for it, but there's also a popular application for music, and that's what I'm using. But I'm also having the lyrics be a representation of the values and principles that I would like to see reflected in the world, and also the values and principles that, to me, are the things that got me through.
So when you think about your process for writing a song, is it that you think about an experience that you had and try to write music to that, explain that experience, or are you writing the music and coming up with the music and then thinking that there's some connection to something in the past? Which comes first? Is sort of the chicken or the egg kind of thing?
Yeah, I learned to do both in music school. But in Aversion to Normalcy, almost all of the songs came directly from me writing the lyrics. And it started not with me trying to write lyrics, but with me trying to write to express a feeling that was overwhelming. And I was at a point to where I didn't have any other way to get the complex thing that was going on inside me out into the world.
Yeah.
Punching bag wasn't enough. Taking a walk wasn't enough. Talking with other people wasn't enough because it wasn't permanent enough.
Right.
I ran into all these different forms where it's like I didn't have the expression to make these feelings feel like, well, to make these feelings expressed in some form or another. And so with that, I started with the lyrics, and I made the lyrics, to me, were when I was done writing them, that was the catharsis. That was when, finally, I see it. I feel accomplished. It says what I wanted to say. It expresses what I wanted to express. right, good, I feel it. And then some of them, I would set them down for years and then come back to them and put music to them.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And for most of Aversion to Normalcy, that's how that process went.
Well, listeners, Sean is referring to their latest album. Well, I call it an album because of my age.
Yes.
But it's Aversion to Normalcy, and it has some great tracks on it. I guess I know on your webpage, and listeners, that webpage is thequarantined.com. So I'm going to spell that out for everybody. It's TheQuarantined.com. And I urge all our listeners to visit the webpage, and you'll learn a lot about Sean's journey. What I really want to direct your attention to is that there is a section of the webpage where he talks about his struggle with PTS. And I think everybody needs to read it. It's fascinating. The part that jumped out at me is you are talking about you're in a VA treatment facility, and the doctors told you that, look, you're going to kill yourself if you keep up the way you're going. And then you somehow conjured up the words to the Pink Floyd song "Wish You Were Here," and especially that part that says, "Did you exchange a walk-on part in a war for the lead role in a cage?" Which I'm sure I heard that lyric a long time ago, but boy, does that really jump out and say, this is what a lot of veterans are faced with. And listeners, you got to go and click on that section of the webpage and listen to it, or read it, and listen to the music. And I know that on the page, you kind of right up front, you kind of identify your music as grunge. You still sticking with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're our catalog is punk, metal, and grunge. Not necessarily in that order. We, in that we delve into some of the acoustic side of things. People have even said that Trendsetter is more Southern rock than grunge or punk, and I would agree with them. I mean, I deliberately told my guitarist, make these guitar lines sound like Duane Allman.
Yeah.
So he did, and it sounds fantastic, and I love it. So we tried to take from all of the different elements of rock, and there really is a very wide palette.
Yes, for sure. You can find all kinds of music on here. I'll tell you what it reminds me of as a kid. It's got that same vibe of a theme-driven album that was found in Queensryche Operation Mindcrime.
Oh.
And it really jumps out at me because of that. I have, strong memories of that as growing up with that kind of music in the 70s. And the graphics are pretty crazy. I'm looking at your webpage right now, and there's some stuff jumping out at you that a lot of gas mask stuff going on, but it's awesome.
Yes. That was the visualization that we were using for this album, and it also it's part of the logo as well.
Yeah.
To give people a sense that, well, it already establishes the idea that everyone wears a mask.
Yeah.
But what's underneath it is where you see who you really are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I when I first got your email, I'm reading it, and you introduce yourself as, my name is The Quarantined, and I'm like, oh man, what is this? Because I get some pretty wild emails from people who want to tell their story and be on a podcast. How that can't be your name. And I did a little bit more research and found you, but
Yeah, I apologize for that. It actually should not have said that.
It was quite the lead in there.
That's-
Listeners, I want to give you that webpage again. It's thequarantine.com. That's the band's webpage. You're going to find Sean's story there, but also you're going to find all his music wherever you get your music, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever. So check it out, really, And you are based in Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you play regularly anywhere in the Nashville area where listeners can go see you? Or
Right now we're looking to start booking shows and do like acoustic type shows around there. So if anybody's got recommendations, hit me up. But we will be looking to do a West Coast tour either this fall in late summer or in spring of next year.
Wow, awesome. And all that information will be on the webpage, listeners. That's thequarantine.com. Well, listen, Sean, I really enjoyed the music. It was great talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and tell us about what you found in music and how it can really benefit other veterans to, get some sort of emotional release through the writing of the music, the writing of the lyrics. Even if you don't play music, you could write the lyrics and find somebody who plays music. It's just amazing. I think it's just great what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that, and it's so great to have me on. I really appreciate you having me on and helping me to spread the message.
Oh, for sure. So, well, listeners, we'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms. We're on YouTube and Reese across America. So until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.